first half of the meeting. I am going to chair the second half of the meeting, and then I do have something for administrative business, but at this point, I'll move it over to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair Hauser. Sorry, just pulling up one more thing on my computer. Okay. All right. Welcome to the June 1st, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Can we have a roll call? Yeah, roll call.
Chair Hauser,
Present.
Vice Chair Berman,
Here.
Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Whitfield,
Here.
and Commissioner Davis.
Here. And Commissioner Redfield, do you mind leading us in the salute to the flag?
Sorry, and just to note, Commissioner Ferguson is absent.
And Commissioner Sanchez will be lead.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get into administrative business, I'll ask if there's any public comment on administrative business. And before I take any, I'm going to read a few notes. Public meetings are a limited public forum, meaning that there are rules for commenting at these meetings. Comments on non-agendized items must address matters within the subject jurisdiction of the city, and comments on agendized items must relate to that specific item. If comments do not fall into one of these categories, the city will provide you with an initial warning to stay within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or on topic. If the warning is not followed, the city will direct the planning director to cut off the mic, and throughout this warning system, I will seek the assistance of Assistant City Attorney in identifying comments not related to the agenda item or not within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. That said, are there any public comments on the administrative business? Seeing, yep.
I believe it was the intention of staff to pull the minutes from the agenda just because they didn't load properly onto the...
Right. Did you want to address that before the public comment period?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Berman. So some technology problem, the minutes didn't properly load. I don't know, they're uploaded on our end, and one uploads from the agenda and the other doesn't. So we'd like to just pull both, and we can bring them back at the next meeting for commission consideration.
For the minutes. And then also, how about for consideration items 1 and 2, because I believe they're duplicate?
You are correct. Those are duplicate. So it would just be item number 1 would be the capital improvement program, and then item number 2 should be the text amendment.
Was there a difference in the general plan date on those items?
No, that's a great question. Thank you. I think that they're just formatted a little bit differently, and one includes, when we refer to the general plan, we refer to the current general plan, which is the 2040 plan, but they're both correct.
And if I may, just for clarification, the minutes were the May 4th meeting, correct? Just for the record. Thank you.
And the April.
Mm-hmm. I think there were 2. There were.
And April, okay.
So still having public comment open. Is there anyone online who has any comments? And I'm glad that we addressed those small typos in the agenda.
There are members online, but no raised hands.
No raised hands. And just for those calling in, if you'd like to make a comment during tonight's meeting, your dial-in number is 1-650-898-6965, conference ID 383-609-442, pound, and press star 5 to raise your hand, and then you'll press star 6 to unmute. All right, I'm going to close the public comment period on the administrative business and go on to approval of the order of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
All right, motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion made by Commissioner Hauser, second by Commissioner Davis, and that motion passes unanimously with absence from Ferguson and Sanchez.
Thank you. And we already clarified there's no minutes to review and approve. Designation of liaison, there's none. And on to oral communications. So this is the portion of our meeting where the public can provide comments on non-agendized items. And we could take yellow speaker cards for those in person. And if anyone's calling in online to comment on a non-agendized item, please raise your hand.
There are no raised hands.
All right, I'll close the oral communications period. Consent items, we have none. Consideration items, we clarified that items number 1 and 2 are the same item. So I'll read the first description. Perhaps the second description, actually. Okay, consideration item number 1, review of 2026 to 2031 capital improvement program for consistency with the City of Pacifica General Plan 2040. Recommended CEQA action exempt under CEQA guidelines section 15378B4. Recommended action is adopt a resolution finding that the 2026 to 2031 capital improvement program is consistent with the general plan. Do we have a staff report?
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. James Lin, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. And there are no visual presentation this evening, but I will just speak to the city's Capital Improvement Program, or CIP. Each year, the City Council is asked to adopt a 5-year capital improvement program, which comprises the known capital projects on the horizon. The Planning Commission's role in the CIP adoption process is determining if the projects are consistent with the city's general plan. The Planning Commission's role does not extend to project priorities or appropriation of funds, which are determined by the City Council. And in the 2026 to 2031 CIP before you this evening, a majority of the projects have been carried over from previous years and were previously found by the Commission to be consistent with the general plan. The Planning Commission will need to make the consistency finding for these projects summarized in the staff report. And Public Works staffs are present tonight to help answer any questions regarding these projects. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolution finding that the 2026 to 2031 CIP is consistent with the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any clarification questions from the Commission? I know I have some, but I'll let others go first.
Thank you, Chair. While I can't find it because I left my notebook on my work desk today, I did have a question that was regarding San Pedro Creek and Lindemar Beach monitoring program, and I was hoping to get some more information on that if possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Redfield. We have Director, Deputy Roland Yip from Public Works.
And actually, while Director Yip comes up, I want to welcome Commissioner Sanchez. So she is present.
Thank you.
Good evening, Plan Commissioners. Roland Yip, Deputy Director of Public Works / the engineer, and available to answer your question, Commissioner Redfield.
I did notice those in there, and I didn't see any information. I just wanted to, just if you could touch on that and just kind of explain those a little further.
Is it regarding the project itself?
Yeah, just the scope of the project for the San Pedro Creek. Is that in-house? Is that Clara Creek Lab doing that analysis? Just that type of general overview of those two items, San Pedro Creek and Lindemar Beach monitoring program.
So this will be on Appendix Sheet A27. Let me try to grab the packet page number for you here. So this is a contract that we issue out to RCD for their monitoring program. And the reason it may not have come up immediately is because it's not being funded in the current fiscal year. So if you turn to the packet page, you can see that it has skipped this fiscal year. And then in the subsequent fiscal year, we're going to request for another $88,000. More information on this is available from our council meeting on August 25th. 2025, and that is the amendment to RCD for this contract, and you can see why we only requested for the next years is because the program will be ending and will be reevaluated for a new contract if we should continue monitoring.
Okay, that'll cover it.
Any others, Commissioner Redfield? No?
Go ahead.
All right. Deputy Director Yip, I'll have a couple clarification questions if you want to stay up at the podium. And I acknowledge we haven't done public comment yet. We'll do that after clarification questions, but before deliberation. So my first clarification, well, first of all, I love the formatting of this CIP. And I can't remember if last year's was formatted like this, but I love it. And the pictures, for me, are so helpful, just like scrolling through and getting a sense of like what type of project I'm about to look at. And I look at a lot of these, so I'm really proud that our city has this format. So some clarification questions. Why do we have completed projects in the CIP? Is it to just track the funding sources that we have?
First off, thank you for the comment about the formatting. It was a huge undertaking by us, and then also finance helped a lot with the formatting as well as the revenue sources on one of the figures there. Yeah, it was something that I've always wanted to do since I got here. So this is really rewarding to see it. And
well, it looks great.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the comment. So this was a practice that has been in place here, that we've kept a project completed at least for one fiscal year. So if it's completed this year, next year it will be gone, just to show you that how much funding has been spent on that project. So it really is just a practice. We don't have to do it. I think some of the things in here can still be adjusted. In terms of overall formatting, maybe it's a little challenging to do in the next 2 weeks for the city council meeting, but then other minor tweaks and things here and there were open to suggestions and comments, including whether or not we want to keep a completed project in there. But yeah, that's usually a practice that we've had here, and I just kept it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and my questions that I'm going to have tonight, I think, are not going to result in any changes. It's mainly just an opportunity to ask my questions. Let's see. On packet page 102, so this is the Sanchez property. Let me get to it on my end. I think the photo there is misleading. Still scrolling to it, sorry. But I guess a question, is there any intent to put a playground on the Sanchez Field next to the Art Center? Or is this, am I thinking of the wrong property? Because the photo has like a children's playground, it looks like.
Yes, and that looks like just an image that we may have found online. Is not really representative of what's going to be done. Some of them are, like we have visuals of our Sharp Park Library. That was a proposed project. We could definitely adjust that picture for the upcoming meeting, make it more representative of what we're actually going to put in. I mean, there's not a huge defined scope in this, but yeah, that's definitely something that can change, and we can make a note of that.
Okay, yeah, I think it would, because what makes it a little confusing is the description talks about preserving the fields,
Okay.
but then the photo shows a new playground development. If it's possible to change that photo, I think that'd be helpful just to avoid confusion.
Well, yeah, definitely. We can change it to a photo of the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to actively point out, to acknowledge that there's a lot of fire station improvement requirements that we have to maintain our 2 fire stations in the city. So I'm just making a statement. We have our wastewater treatment plant that requires a lot of maintenance and upgrades. That's probably the biggest section in this CIP, the wastewater section. So I just wanted to actively acknowledge that our city has facilities that really need the funding that all of these in lieu fees and development fees go towards, which leads me to, we need to welcome quality development in our city to help support these facilities. So that was, sorry, I probably should have saved that for deliberation, because that was more of a statement than a question. Last question I have, packet page 124, the Clara Creek and wetlands, think monitoring probably. I noticed that's in the wastewater section. Is that because the wastewater treatment plant outfalls treated water to the creek? Or should that project be categorized elsewhere?
Oh, yes, that is correct. It's because the treatment plant outfalls into the creek, and
Okay.
that's why we have to use our enterprise funds for this.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And those are all my clarification questions. Any follow-up clarification questions?
I have something that I'll do after.
Okay, sounds good. Then I will open it up to public comment. If there's anyone in the room or anyone called in online, please raise your hand.
There are no hands raised.
All right, I'll close the comment period. Thank you, Deputy Director Yep. And I'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation.
I'm very impressed with staff. I'm also very impressed with Vice Chair because you're so good at this. And I really appreciate having your expertise on the commission. I did have one question for staff. And this is not anything that would change the CIP, but it's just food for thought. And I kind of also want to piggyback on something that the Vice Chair said. So one thing that I've seen a lot of cities start to do, starting in like Central California, but starting to really percolate through the Bay Area, is participate in BOLD and SKIP, which use CIPs to help developers off. It's like forming CFDs through state infrastructure programs. And there are a ton of participating cities, including some of our neighbors. And I'm wondering if that's something that Public Works or Engineering has considered, especially in light of what the Vice Chair said about how much maintenance some of these things take and the nexus fees that correspond to those.
So we as Public Works has never looked into boat or skip, but that's definitely something that we can investigate some more in.
If staff has time to investigate it, I think it really helps developers, especially, it was started for affordable developers, but I think all developers are making use of it. And I think the next question that I had, which was really out of Vice Chair's comments, but do we have an impact fee for our community facilities, like fire stations, police stations, et cetera?
I'm going to check in with Director Gomez.
Good evening, Marisol Gomez, Director of Administrative Services. We do have a general city development impact fee, and that can go to any of the general facilities, including fire stations, the Civic Center, which was already completed, but also the community center.
Okay, that's really helpful. It makes me wonder if maybe there would be a nexus for like a public safety facility impact fee, but I am not on council, so I'm just throwing it out there.
Not a problem. I can add that we are underway with our development impact fee study. That has come up. We had considered doing a separate fee, but with the complications of that, we decided to continue to keep it as a general fee, but that can be up for deliberation once we bring our staff report to council later in the year.
Fabulous, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to concur with what the chair said regarding the format. I think that was an excellent, very easy to understand. The photos are great, and it also works to the numbers. So you can actually see the numbers and funded, unfunded, which clearly I think we know what most of those categories can unfortunately be. But yes, I think I did have one other question, and I'm kind of curious on how prioritization is done as far as funding and or projects. It's kind of, you break it down like what needs to be done, obviously, and if funding is available for those on an as-needed basis. Obviously, our wish list is immense, and I know the numbers on the totals on those, but just a quick overview on kind of how based on, I'm sure it's based on funding, but also there are certain issues that you cannot avoid, obviously.
I was trying to find a good time to let you know about which packet page number your project was on. The San Pedro Creek testing was on packet page 64. But to answer your question, there's a number of ways that things get prioritized. I would say that on the highest level, it starts with the city council and their prioritization, and that's the goal setting that happens on Saturday. Then we look at our master plans, and there's priorities in all of them, like whether it's the ped bike master plan, local roadway safety plan. There's going to be priorities on where those projects lie. Then every year, the CIPs, they do restart in terms of how we analyze the projects. So it's pretty short after this is done that in October, another email goes out, and I'm asking the department heads, hey, look at your projects. We're going to do CIPs again after we just finished. And then that's a chance for them to reprioritize their projects. So you can see that we have a lot of unfunded projects, and it's difficult to prioritize. It really is about resources and funding. And then a lot of the other ways that projects come to be in the city is through grants. So the grants automatically trigger a project, because if you can get funding for it, why not? It's free, we're just gonna do the project regardless of where it lies. And a lot of these grant applications have specific criteria. So we can't just apply for like our list, because it has to be near a school, has to be near a lower income area to be competitive, has to be like a certain dollar amount. So it's not that simple to just apply for a grant down the list. And then I'll explain the Oceana bike lanes one a little bit more. It doesn't rank high in the prioritization for the in the bike ped master plan, but the reason why we are going after it is because the Manor Drive overcrossing needs a connection to Oceana, and that was comment from Caltrans, and potentially when we're looking into the permits, this comment is going to come up again, and it's going to come up during PS&E. And what we've told them is that we're actively seeking grants in order to make that connection. So that automatically boosts that bike lane project all the way to the top. So there's a number of moving pieces and different things going on. But if there's any specific projects, let me know. I can explain those as well.
That's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about the bridge at Rockaway Beach? Can you just explain the status of that? And, you know, it looks unfunded, is that correct? It seems ripe for grant funding. What is the sort of process to have staff applying for grants for something like that?
Mm-hmm. So we have gone after a grant for that when it first got closed off, and we applied for a Coastal Conservancy grant, and unfortunately we were not successful. So for projects of this type, there aren't a lot of grant funds available. The most abundant grant funds are for like safe routes to school, pet bike facilities, transportation type of projects for like, you know, like the Manor Drive overcrossing. There's a lot of like highway type of improvements, major roadway improvements. These type of projects, there's just not a lot. And this is one of the situations where it was actually put in by private funds. So all the commercial areas around here chipped in to put this in. And construction costs have just skyrocketed. When they first put this in, it was easy to gather the funds for this. I think if we tried to gather $400,000, it would be a little challenging to rebuild it. But we're looking at other ways we can try to rehab this, but it's just a safety and liability thing to open it back up at this point.
Can you just speak to that last point? What is, it's unsafe for foot traffic?
That's correct. On the appearance of the top level, it doesn't look terribly deteriorated, but then if you would like to see photos on the underside, it's completely rusted out. And so we can't continue to have foot traffic going over it.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Is the bridge in Rockaway, is that a part of the coastal trail? Is that the extension of the coastal trail through Rockaway?
I had the same question.
I would have to look it up, but I want to say yes, there is, like, it's likely on the general plan for the trail.
Yeah, I just, having run that area often, I'm pretty sure that is the coastal trail. I'm surprised that Coastal Conservancy didn't provide a grant for their coastal trail. But that's unfortunate. Yeah, I think a lot of us are really eager for that bridge to be repaired and open back up. Yep.
I do have a question. Sorry. So there's two projects that involve Cattle Hill. One is on packet page 102 and 107. And I was a little confused by the consistency with the general plan, where it talks about completing the planned transfer of the city-owned land on Cattle Hill to the Golden Gate, well, GGNRA, NPS, to coordinate parkland management, trail access, and improvements. So are these projects required before that transfer can take place, or is it projects we would do if the transfer didn't happen? Or I kind of am curious about at what stage are we with this completing the planned transfer and how those projects tie into our capital improvement plan.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Davis. Just want to confirm packet page 104 for the Pedro Point Highlands or Headlands?
102, Cattle Hill.
I think 103.
Oh, is it? Well, let's look. Yes, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. 103, yes. And the other one, let me make sure it's 107 and not 108. Yeah, the other one is the trailhead park construction, and then the first one was on 103. Yes,
And
sorry about that, Roland.
Oh, no, it's okay. Which one is the one that has the land transfer that you're referring to? Because then.
So it's on packet page 12. It's part of the consistency with the general plan. It's talking about the transfer of land at Cattle Hill to GGNRA and NPS, which I found a little confusing. Hence my question. It's packet page 12, the last bullet, right before wastewater.
I do see it in there, but it's not in the description of the project, so I'm not sure if planning department could provide an insight on this. Otherwise, I would have to look into it.
And I would agree, it's not in the description of the projects, but the two projects are on the list above this general plan consistency on packet page 11. They're both included on that list of projects.
So I'm not sure if this is getting confused with the Pedro Point Headlands project, which does have a land transfer to GGNRA, and that's why I was asking the question about whether it was on packet page 104.
Yeah, and I don't know, because I'm as confused as you are.
Well, I guess,
Which, why I'm asking the question. Is there a plan to transfer?
well, Commissioner Davis, so I think what's causing the confusion is one of the policies in the general plan, the OC I-14 Cattle Hill.
Right.
So I don't know if Assistant City Attorney wants to advise if that's something that we could discuss here, or, because my guess is it's a part of the general plan and not a part of the CIP.
Yes, as it's part of the general plan, it's not a subject of the discussion today. What we're looking at today is specifically whether the CIP that's in front of you is consistent with the general plan, but not looking at the general plan for other purposes.
I was not asking to look at the general plan. There's two projects listed in the CIP that involve this same location. That's what the question was.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Davis. We can look into more specifically what that general plan policy is referring to, but I would defer to Deputy Director Yip that this is not part of these two capital projects that are listed in the CIP.
That's correct. The current projects in those two templates, that doesn't involve a land transfer at the current moment.
Maybe if staff could take I know that it's not pertinent for today's meeting, but if staff could take a look at that in the general plan, just in case it was an oversight.
As I said, staff will look into it, but I believe it's referring to a different project.
Okay.
And was added to the analysis incorrectly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or deliberation or perhaps a motion? I will be more than happy to give the motion if anyone is willing to second it. Let's see. Oh, because it's a consideration item. Do we have formal language for the motion? Because I don't think it's in the packet. I'll just, how about, I'll go with this.
Sorry.
I move that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution included in Attachment A, finding the proposed 2026-2031 capital improvement program consistent with the Pacifica General Plan 2040.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I did not press the no.
Can we, let's reset, let's reset and revote now.
Nor did the chair arm lean on the no button.
I know that happens. Great.
One more, Commissioner Redfield?
Yeah. And motion made by Commissioner Berman, second by Commissioner Redfield, and that motion passes unanimously with Ferguson absent.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Deputy Director Yip, for leading us through this CIP, which we're all really excited for. All right. I will pass the baton.
Awesome, thank you. So that takes us now to file number 2026-006, text amendment TA-129-26, initiated by the City of Pacifica to repeal and replace Article 41 Density Bonus Program and Article 47 City of Pacifica Below Market Rate Inclusionary Program of the City of Pacifica zoning regulations. I believe this was a continued hearing, and welcome back to Heart of San Mateo.
Give us just one moment, please, Chair. It's okay. It's right here. I think we've got a little technology gnome running around community development, and I think it's followed us to the chambers. So if you'll just allow us a moment, we'll be right with you. Okay, thank you. We are ready to go. Thank you, Chair Hauser, Vice Chair Berman, Planning Commissioners, Samantha Updegrave, Community Development Director. I'm joined this evening by Tim Davis and Alex Wagner from the Heart of San Mateo, as well as Assistant City Attorney Karen Murphy. And we are here tonight for the continued hearing on the updates to the density bonus and inclusionary housing ordinances. We'll provide just a brief summary of the Planning Commission's direction from our last meeting, speak to the Coastal Commission review, staff recommendation, and provide a motion for approval of the recommendation. And with that, I will pass it over to Mr. Davis with Heart.
Thank you. Quickly, an overview of density bonus and inclusionary housing ordinances. We know have been in front of you a couple of times now, but the general public may need to know as well. Density bonus ordinance is based on state law, allows developers to receive additional density for their development in exchange for deed restricted affordable units. Allows developers waivers and concessions to development standards. The inclusionary housing ordinance mandates a percentage of market rate residential developments be deed restricted as affordable to low-income households, provides alternatives to on-site units such as in lieu fee, off-site construction, and off-site preservation, and it would be further updated by a grand nexus study being completed countywide over the next year. There was a joint study session of the City Council and this body on October 6, 2025. City staff and Heart presented before the joint session, outlining a history of inclusionary housing and density bonus ordinances, and outlining some potential amendments based on state law and best practices. The Planning Commissioners and the City Council provide feedback and insight used to develop draft amendments, which we brought forth to you a month ago on May the 4th. We had a public hearing, provided feedback on the proposed ordinance. We continued the hearing to tonight because there was additional coordination needed between city staff and the Coastal Commission, and to incorporate your feedback from that meeting for the actual ordinances. The updated ordinances that we are presenting today incorporates those recommendations. And I'll turn it over to Alex Wagner to talk about density bonus.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you for having us. As Mr. Davis outlined, the state density bonus law is a law that's used to incentivize affordability in exchange for higher density, as well as waive out of waivers, or to utilize waivers out of development standards. As we discussed previously, the current City of Pacifica ordinance was adopted in 1986 and updated in 1992. Because it was not updated since 1992, there are many parts of it that are out of compliance with state law. It's more restrictive and more discretionary, and so is not enforceable. Some of the changes that we're putting into place to be in accordance with state law include fewer affordable units to qualify for density bonuses, longer affordability periods, mandated incentives, concessions, and waivers, applicability to more housing types, and alternatives to construction of affordable units. To provide a summary of the changes that we incorporated from the last time we saw you, we added a section more clearly subordinating city law to state law and clarified some of the definitions that were highlighted by commissioners. We added a section specifically exempting density bonus program or projects from additional CEQA studies in accordance with state law, clarified requirements for waivers and incentives, and altered the homeownership affordability duration for density bonus projects to 45 years, resetting on sale or transfer in accordance with direction from commissioners, and altered the rental affordability term to 99 years, also in accordance with best practices and guidance from commissioners. I'll pass it over to Mr. Davis to discuss the inclusionary housing ordinance.
Back to the inclusionary zoning, I'll jump to the next slide. It was adopted in 2007 and had not been updated since then. There was a series of small technical changes, both in terms of language and other wording that we incorporated. We did change that any alternatives to on-site units must be approved by the council instead of by the original entitlement body. Any land donated as an alternative must be free of encumbrances and have paid their property taxes. Change the term of affordability for the owner units, as we did with the density bonus units, to 45 years, resetting upon sale. We also incorporated, based on your comments, that off-site preservation units must have been previously rented above 100% of median rent levels so that we're actually getting some affordability from these units. And clarifying that the local preference must adhere to fair housing law, and removing a misdemeanor as a form of enforcement from the code. And those are the updates.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis and Mr. Wagner. I wanted to talk about density bonus in the coastal zones. So since receiving comments from Coastal Commission staff prior to the May 4th hearing, staff have been coordinating and working together on revisions. We've gone through 2 rounds of review, and it's pretty clear that we need more time for the work and the analysis. Developing review processes and requirements need to take into account our local plans and our context, including state housing and planning laws. So some of the things that we were working on were examples from other jurisdictions, but zoning is just too specific to its location to really be able to copy and paste and just port things over. However, we have so much more development potential on the table from our housing element rezone than we have in the last 40 years. And so we don't want to wait to enact these really important updates to our 30-plus-year-old ordinance. So staff proposes moving forward with the density bonus ordinance without the coastal provisions and then coming back to those to give us more time. Just as a quick refresher, the mechanics of our local coastal program, it can get kind of confusing. So the local coastal program is comprised of the local coastal land use plan and the LCLUP and the implementing plan, or the IP. And the zoning ordinance is part of that implementing plan. So anytime the city adopts zoning ordinance or text amendments, they have to also be certified by the California Coastal Commission prior to taking effect within the coastal zone. So, you know, when an ordinance moves forward, it becomes effective within all the other parts of the city within 30 days of council action, and then there's a delay before it takes effect in the coastal zone while we go through the certification process with the Coastal Commission. So that is how that works. Okay. So as we shared, our density bonus ordinance is very old. It was last updated in 1992. So we would like to move forward with a minor revision to both the applicability and the local coastal program consistency, which I'll put up on the screen. And then the density bonus ordinance amendments would be effective citywide except the coastal zone. And we'll bring those back during the next fiscal year. On a technical side, just for awareness, we'll have to split the density bonus and inclusionary housing ordinances when we take it to council, just to allow separate filing of the local coastal plan amendments. So that will allow us to move forward with inclusionary right away, the inclusionary portion. And there will be no impact on the review of potential density bonus projects within the coastal zone. It would be the same process as it is now, meaning that we would work our way through it based on a specific project in coordination with Coastal Commission and potentially with HCD. So the proposed revision would essentially move what we had under local coastal plan consistency under the applicability. So that way it's really front and center. And it would read, the provisions of this article are not applicable within the coastal zone until such time that the city adopts and the Coastal Commission certifies amendments to the density bonus provisions. For a housing development project within the coastal zone, any requested density bonus, concession, or waiver or parking reduction shall be consistent with all applicable requirements of the certified City of Pacifica local coastal program. And then just to make sure everyone sees it, under the local coastal program consistency, we would just do a cross-reference back to the applicability and then delete those remaining sections. So staff's recommendation is this evening is to hold the continued hearing, take public comments, discuss the proposed amendments, and adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council as modified. And when you're ready, we do have a motion for approval that contains a clause as amended during the hearing. And that concludes our presentation. We're available for questions.
Okay, thank you. I do have clarifying questions based on the coastal items that we just discussed, but does anyone else have clarifying questions prior to that? I think like last time I'll take public comment before we get into the bulk of the ordinance. Okay.
I have a comment or a question. So it all sounds good, but so this obviously outdated ordinance has been on the books for quite some time. What's the urgency to partition it, move this piece forward, and then do the process twice rather than let the outdated ordinance be on the books for another year until Coastal Commission gets you the proper, language, what they want.
That's a great question, Commissioner Fisher. Thank you. That is certainly one way to go. I really believe because, our rezoning, our housing element rezoning program provided the regulatory framework for an additional 1,892 units. I think in the end we rezoned 30 sites. So that is quite a bit of new development potential that the city has not had until recently. With that much development potential open, we're already starting to see some applications come through, and having a current ordinance will allow staff to get better information up front to review the project, provide a clear pathway for developers, and that kind of clarity and consistency is especially important with housing development projects where there are so many state laws that direct what we, sort of what we can, what we can't do, how we have to do it. And so I think it's important to provide that, that clarity and those expectations as soon as possible so that we can apply our own local ordinance to new projects as they come in.
My question was actually the opposite. I feel like there's a ton of urgency, and so I was going to go to the other, like the polar opposite of, is there a way to adopt this in a qualified way in the coastal zone that says, until such time as the Coastal Commission finds this consistent, this will not apply to the coastal zone, but if upon their approval, it will automatically apply or will be, altered. I just, why come back through a bureaucratic, I guess I shouldn't say that. Why come back through a lengthy process for something that's really important, which is housing that's affordable to all?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hauser. At this point, it's not clear to me how detailed the Coastal Commission requirements are going to be. So we've looked at a few different examples that use concepts that we've never used within the city of Pacifica, different ways of measuring density. So I think it's really going to be very important that whatever we come up with, we need to bring back to the Planning Commission. If it's a very simple fix, there'll be a very simple ordinance to bring forward.
Yeah.
We can all knock on wood. That would be great. And I think it's certainly worth going through that process for. In terms of when it will be effective in the coastal zone, I think I would recommend waiting until we have that
clarification.
Yeah, until we have that clarification and build it into the ordinance at that time, like in terms of the effective date, because our density bonus ordinance won't even go to the Coastal Commission at this point. We won't file the amendment.
So let me, that's fair. Let me ask one different question, and I'm going to maybe ask this to Deputy City Attorney Murphy and to Hart Housing. We are far and away not the first coastal city that is adopting an affordable housing ordinance to be consistent with state laws. I feel like being late should have some sort of, benefit on template. So how,
I think I can
what's the sticking
answer.
point? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can answer that, Chair Hauser. I think when we were first approaching our coordination with the Coastal Commission, that was exactly our thought. The Association of Bay Area Governments has a very simple, 2 paragraphs in their density bonus model ordinance for coastal cities. However, the examples that we're seeing from Laguna Beach, Humboldt County, have far more detail, including things like application processing, how to deal with coastal, like how to represent coastal resources, different kinds of analysis that's needed, and all the examples we're seeing are fairly different. Therefore, we really need, I think, to take the time to consider, like how do we measure density in our local coastal plan, right? In our general plan, it's dwelling unit per acre, right? It's not an envelope. So things like that. There's just so much specificity in these ones that are moving forward that we need to, I think, do the same, or determine if there's a more simple fix.
Yeah. And I will just add that we did try to do a more simple fix in the ordinance that you'll see in your packet.
Saw that.
And, but the Coastal Commission had concerns with that. And again, pointed us again to some of these other cities that have different calculations for density, as Ms. Updegrave noted. So then it became clear, okay, this is going to take longer than we thought.
Got it. Not the same thing, but somewhat related. Are we now applying our entire general plan to the entire city, or is some of the city still under the 1980 general plan?
With the certification of the local coastal plan, that also brought the whole city under the current general plan.
Okay, same question for the Sharp Park specific plan.
The Sharp Park specific plan we are working on. It requires a text amendment and map amendments to the local coastal land use plan. So we're hoping to bring those forward in the next fiscal year as well.
Okay.
And there's some other things too. The housing element, in order to integrate the housing element into the local coastal plan, I think we have 2 or 3 sites that are in the coastal zone, also requires those text amendments. So we'll be bringing those forward as an entire package.
Maybe we can put some sort of flow chart together for poor folks trying to figure out what the land use is here.
How many? Okay. From what I recall, we have limitations on the number of text amendments we could do a year, right?
General plan.
Or is it general plan amendments?
We're limited to 3 general plan amendments, which can be batched, so you can have many under one adopting resolution. And then we're limited to 3 local coastal program amendments per year with the Coastal Commission, and those can also be batched. So like we'll be bringing forward the text amendments, the implementing plan, like of the housing element rezoning sites, for example, Sharp Park specific plan and so forth, all as a big package.
But no limitation on zoning amendments?
There's no limitation on zoning amendments.
Okay.
So if developers initiate general plan amendments, do those count against the 3 as well?
They do.
All right. Does anyone else have clarifying questions? All right.
Sorry. Director Updegrave, you mentioned that we will likely see the density bonus ordinance for local coastal area, for the coastal zone next year. Is there any way to have it completed this year? Or what's making it next year?
Yeah.
So the fiscal year starts July 1st.
Oh, yeah.
So we're looking at the fiscal year. We do also, community development is responsible for many strategic plan items and strategies. And so we're also balancing this with, our work on housing opportunities on public land, zoning modernization. So kind of we're looking at the whole, at our whole work plan. And I would also say too, it's also going to depend on the level of complexity with the Coastal Commission.
I don't think we added opportunity sites in our housing element in the coastal zone.
Not yet. That's part of the amendments that we're working on.
Or is new opportunity sites in the coastal zone?
I think there were,
Beyond the housing
I think
element?
there were 2 or 3 housing element sites that were in the coastal zone. So we're in the process of drafting the amendments to the local coastal land use plan and the map.
Okay.
To you.
All right, well, there are no members of the public in the room, so I'm going to assume that we do not have speaker cards. But does anyone have their hand raised either on the phone or on Zoom?
No, there are no hands raised.
Okay, then I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions and deliberation. I think last time we went by page, based on how much work has been in this, maybe we can go by section this time. And so I'm just going to start, unless people have general questions, I'm just going to start calling out items. Okay. Did anyone have any comments beyond what staff added to the ordinance that this commission is adopting? Okay. Vice
Is in the
Chair?
recitals?
The whole resolution, anything in the resolution that planning commission's adopting. There's one for PC and there's one for council.
The recitals.
The resolution including the recitals and the now therefores.
Oh, okay, okay.
The resolution starts on packet page 177.
Yes, I do. Sorry.
What page?
179. And we probably talked about this last time, but I sat and thought about it a little more. So we're having the deed restriction reset with the sale. Oh, sorry, let me tell you the section on the recitals. But it's about deed restriction for the 45-year term and then resetting with the sale or transfer. Because the spirit of this was to allow families to build generational wealth, I hesitate on the transfer aspect. If a home were owned by a family in Pacifica for 44 years, and then the homeowner wanted to downsize and transfer their home to their children, I feel like that's a prime opportunity for that family to build generational wealth. And I'm not a real estate expert, so I've never transferred a property or a home to someone. Maybe that's not how it works, but that's my concern, and I wanted to bring it to the commission to talk about.
Does Hart Housing want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think in practice, just not like having it reset on transfer kind of allows for potential exploitation of that through, of course, maybe not everyone would be wanting to do that, but they, folks could potentially transfer the property in exchange for something else or an off-the-books transaction or something like that. So having it on sale or transfer means that no matter what the transaction type is, that we maintain the affordability with the intention of, if it's a family who's wanting to build that generational wealth, they could potentially just maintain the title with the same person for another year or something like that if it was a situation as you outlined it. And that would, I think, for a number of the situations we've seen that is standard practice for this type of thing, just to ensure that there isn't misuse.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you for what it's worth. I don't disagree with you. I think the fix is something that's not allowed by state. Like the fix would be to deed restrict it for 30 years, which is what like Santa Rosa used to do. But I don't think that the government code allows that anymore.
Correct.
Okay. But I do agree with you. I don't know what I
I
think
get-
we've kind of done the best we could within the parameters of state law, which I feel like I'm saying a lot this year.
I know state law, yeah. Okay, hypothetical, because I have not been through this situation personally. Let's say my parents owned a home in Pacifica and they passed away, leaving the house to me in their will. Is that a transfer technically?
Yes, I believe, yeah.
It also depends what we put in our affordable housing agreements. So some cities do have language in their agreements where if it's transferred via will or trust and the transferee is also satisfies the requirements as an affordable household, that it can be transferred, but they would also need to meet the same criteria as an affordable household. So,
But the deed restriction would not reset.
it would be a transfer that would reset.
So then I'm not seeing any way that generational wealth could be achieved.
Well, I think if you're a first-time home buyer and you're buying a home in your 20s, like many,
But it's only
Folks do.
staying with my generation. It's not passing
no,
to any other.
No, because if you own it for it's a hard bar. But like if you're, let's say 25 and you own it for 45 years, it becomes market rate. Then you'd have to live in it your whole life and you couldn't buy it when you were 40. Or maybe you could, but you'd have to live a very long time.
Who buys a house before they're 30 here? Even.
But that's the goal, right? The goal is to allow people to buy a home at these deed restricted prices.
I mean, I still think a lot of those folks are well, I'm making assumptions, but I still think a lot of those folks could be in their 30s or 40s. But I'm interested, so Assistant City Attorney, is there, so you said there's a way we could add language?
That it could be transferred,
Yeah.
directly to the heirs, but that would still be a transfer.
And then
that
it would
they
reset.
would need a new covenant, so it would still trigger the 45 days, or 40, yeah,
We like
45
We
years.
go in the resale restriction section of our code. I do.
To add that?
Yeah, like you gain the benefit of like passing the
Yeah.
home on. It may not be monetary, but you've given, like the same way like market rate homeowner can give their home to their children. Like
Right.
they still have to qualify, but there's no lottery or whatever you want to call it. There's,
Right. I guess, are we, yes.
We have another challenge here. On inclusionary units that are strictly inclusionary, it's much more of a policy decision around the 45 years, 55 years, whether there's a reset or not. On density bonus units, state density bonus law requires an equity sharing agreement that some of it is recaptured by the city, even if you expire at 45 years. So that wealth creating issue is still an issue even in that respect. A lot of cities aren't actually really enforcing that, but the state law requires it. So that's one other reason why some people I work with on the home ownership side are like, you might as well do it for perpetuity because there's this recapture issue under state density bonus law.
That's only for bonus units though.
Only for density bonus units, not for inclusionary. Yeah.
Okay.
But you've got the 45 years on both, so, which you should, but that's how you said it.
Like, if you looked at our housing element and you looked at the densities for Pacifica that we selected, I'm not sure how many people are gonna be requesting bonus units. They've got a lot of runway.
That's where it does. If it's
Yeah.
strictly inclusionary, yes, you can go whichever direction you want, but for the density bonus units, there's this equity sharing agreement that has to be in there.
What do you think? Do you wanna make a note and we can talk about, we get to a resale agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. Make it. I got it. Okay. Anything else in the reso? In the first one for us?
There was one, packet page 185.
Who's it?
Oh, sorry. Well, let me see.
No, 185. I did it the right way this time.
Oh, good. Item C on that page. Extend affordability terms to 55 years. Did we change it to 99?
I thought we had.
The changes, so the changes did not filter from the planning commission, so this is one of my comments. They didn't transfer it from the PC reso to the CC reso, because the typos that we fixed on the PC reso are also still in here. So if we could just refilter.
Okay.
But it's correct on the planning commission resolution.
Okay, that's it for,
Well, on that same page, on E, we have HUSING. And then the same.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I'm kind of poking fun. The same comments that we made last time around, so like what Vice Chair Berman just said, the spelling errors in E, and extrapolating the, or let's just go down to the section. No, we didn't have it in this resolution. That was only in planning commissions. I think just making sure that the sections that got updated last in our reso get updated for council. Okay. I'm gonna move in the packet to the red line, which was super, super helpful, and starts, trying to find it. Starts on page 225 of the packet. So does anyone have any comments on 4-4100?
Can I get that packet page again? Sorry.
225. I mean, my first comment starts on packet page 229, so if anyone has comments before then. Okay. On 229, in 2 little Roman numeral I, we added, like, I think this was edited really well, but we still have "and the proposed cost reduction," and I'm wondering what we're looking for from folks there. This still feels like it's asking for proof of, or evidence of, like, financial cost.
Yeah, so there is a finding that if there is not a cost reduction, it can be denied. So I think it's just asking for in the application to provide, some evidence of what the proposed cost reduction would be. And we modified the language so it's more general, but so we do have that information for the finding, or else it's unclear how we would determine whether or not there was a cost reduction.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to ask for a cost reduction. If you look at 65915, subdivision D1, it says that we shall grant the concession or incentive requested by the applicant unless the city, county, or city and county makes a written finding based on substantial evidence, and then it goes through it. So we would have to make written findings. We cannot ask. I mean, those are those HCD letters that I forwarded.
Yeah, could you,
Subdivision D of 65915.
okay. Sorry, I'm just looking for the language. So because we can make a finding that it doesn't result in identifiable and actual cost reductions, in order to deny it, in order to be clear that we cannot make that finding, we would want to make the opposite finding. We would just want information about what that developer was proposing as a cost reduction, or else the city wouldn't be able to look at this issue at all, or would be just looking at based on our information, not the developer information. So it's not, it's just asking, more generally, will there be a cost reduction? It doesn't need to be, a cost reduction of blank amount of money, or, I've seen them very generically, like this will save costs because we won't have to, do certain things. So I think it's just wanting the applicant to put in writing that, yes, this will reduce our costs.
So maybe we change it to say, and an affirmative statement that there is a proposed cost reduction.
Or to identify, because I think it's about just identifying what the
We
cost reduction is.
cannot legally ask people to quantify their cost reductions.
Not to quantify it, but to identify what it is. So
What would that mean?
So like, as Assistant City Attorney Murray was saying, Murphy, my gosh, I did the Murray-Murphy thing. To say, whatever, eliminating parking, provides a cost reduction to construction cost. So I think it's just about identifying it so that in our findings, we can just say what the cost reduction is. That's my understanding.
So, if I may, so what you're saying is, and I understand the confusion in the wording, is that if they're requesting a concession, they have to, we're asking them to provide the category or the area in which they expect a cost reduction, not the dollar value or a percentage of total cost of the cost. So it's qualitative, not quantitative.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you. I got one right tonight.
Okay. I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I'm not feeling great about the wording.
I was just going to say, but maybe we need to clarify the wording. That's what I was.
What do you, Commissioner Davis, do you have a thought?
Yeah, give me a second. This is complete layman's, but something like requesting a concession and the area or aspect of the project where a cost reduction may be realized or will be realized. Something like that? Or it's categorical, I don't know. But to use the parking example, what is that, a feature of the project? I mean, I just don't know what word to use, but just a word that makes it clear it's qualitative and not that they have to provide.
What if we just say in accordance with Government Code Section 65915, subsections D and E? And that way, the state law can.
I was also thinking that we could also make it very generic and say a description of the anticipated cost reduction.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about the local coastal, so we'll skip that one. Does anyone have anything on 4105? Okay. 06? 07? '08 or '09? And last one, 4110. Okay, we're officially through section or Article 41. Any last things on Article 41? Okay. Article 47, which starts on 239. I really like the change to 4701C. That was very well written. A lot of this was very well written. I'm just going to keep going. So 4702. Oh, I did have one on 4702. So for F1, we had provided comments on this section that were not taken, and I was wondering what if there needed more discussion.
This was in regards to the definition of a BMR for sale unit.
Just because it kind of doesn't, it doesn't match the previous definitions that you've given earlier in the ordinance. There's nothing offensive about it, it just doesn't, it's like if we're doing this, might as well make them consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can alter it to match more consistently with the other definitions, unless
Okay.
staff has other comments.
I think I'm just revisiting my notes from last time. And I think the request was to add the word residential.
I think it was I think the request was to get out of applying it to, I guess including but not limited is probably fine. I think we just want to apply it to any residential unit.
Yeah, I think including but not limited to is pretty standard language I've seen in other ordinances.
Okay, that's fine then.
We could say unit offered resident BMR, I want to make sure we're not doing duplicate words, below market rate residential unit for sale, including but not limited to.
I think it's fine. I think including but not limited to makes it fine. Okay, any comments on 4702? 4703? 4704 is the construction phasing. Did you have comments there? Okay.
So packet page 247, item 7 at the top of the page. So I was thinking more about the phasing, and we'll get to it later, but the permitting of requiring BMR units prior to or alongside the market rate. And I'm not super familiar with financing developments. I know that it would probably be extremely burdensome to require a developer to build the BMR units first and then the market rate, but maybe not as burdensome if they're built in parallel.
Yeah.
But over the past couple of weeks, I was talking to a few different affordable housing developers and affordable housing providers, not even developers. And this was an item that others run into as issues in cities that they try to provide housing in. So I'm curious, mainly Chair Hauser, your opinion.
I'm glad you flagged this because I did not think about it here, but I thought about it in a subsequent area when it goes through the C of O requirements. I think we added or concurrently because it used to just say prior to, but I do agree with you. And I'm wondering, and this is my suggestion later, but if we could just add A, some proportionality, or B, and B, a sentence that says, or is otherwise, allowed by the affordable housing plan. And that gives then the CDD some ability to, to Vice Chair Berman's point, if you have, I'm going to call it 9 buildings and 10 BMRs. Does the first building have to have 2 BMRs, or can the 2 happen later, right? Like, there needs to be a little bit of leeway for staff.
So for 7, where it says be constructed prior to or concurrently with market rate units, we would add, and a section further on, the on-site or excuse me, off-site construction does refer to a proportionality. So maybe similar language to say, be constructed, proportionately, in proportion with the number of market rate units instead of prior to or concurrently with? Is that what?
I mean, I almost think that you can keep the prior to and concurrently with, but I would just say something like that, here, I'm going to write it as I say it,
Yeah.
otherwise my brain won't do it.
Could we get a page number on what you were looking at for the offsite?
This is at 247.
The
No, I know,
offsite is
for
on
the
page
offsite.
the next page,
Okay,
248.
248, great.
Yes.
So I would change it to say that that's a proportional number of units be constructed prior to or concurrently with market rate units in the residential development project or applicable phase of the residential project unless otherwise allowed by the project's affordable housing plan.
And while I think the proportionality language, I agree with, the one thing that we need to take into account is if there are exceptions that we build into the code without standards as to how we apply those exceptions, then it becomes difficult to determine, what exceptions we could approve or would not approve.
So what if, unless otherwise allowed by the project's affordable housing plan, what if we write something that says, subject to the approval of the community development director? I think here's an example of when this doesn't work. San Jose requires one affordable permit to be issued for every 6 market rate permits that are issued. And if you have a project that has 9 units in the first building, and then your next building happens later, the developer gets stuck and can't get the financing. They're very strict with how they interpret it. So what started to happen is now staff is issuing ministerial, affordable entitlements, right? There's a whole new process to to work around an error that they've created, or not an error, but an issue that they've created through their code. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, and I understand that situation. We also have the situation where we can't completely let it be just according to the Affordable Housing Plan or the CDD, because what if you say that would open the door for them not putting a unit in the first building at all, and then what if the second phase doesn't happen? So, I mean, that's the other end of it. So I understand your point, and that's, it's going to, how can we work that, thread that needle?
Yeah.
And if I may, that was one of my concerns. I understand what you're saying, and I think that there needs to be some kind of clarity around this, but we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we can end up with, oh, gee, the project, we ran out of money, and there's no BMRs.
I was going to say, I think, there are examples I can think of where, perhaps less well-intentioned developers have used, having later phasing or later construction of those affordable units to delay and then kind of eventually get out of some of those requirements. So I think we just need to be careful of that as well.
Yeah, and even if it's not intentional on the part of the developer, I mean, things happen. I mean, I can think of any number of projects in Pacifica that ran out of money. And whether it's intentional or not, I think we want to avoid the risk of not having the BMR units built.
That's a really good point.
Is there is rough proportionality a legal term we can use here?
I'll give you another example of a project
Roughly proportional.
that I'm currently building. I have a project where the first 4, every building has a BMR in it, except the first building, because the first 4 units are all models, and they're not going to be occupied till the very end of the project. So they still have certificates of occupancies because people are walking around in them as models, right? I see both sides, and I don't know what the resolution is.
We could also carve out models units, because I have heard of that concern.
I think that's really helpful.
Before. Have you?
I've never seen that way.
You've never seen that?
That's also true. I've never seen that in the code.
Yeah. So, and roughly proportional. I think we're not suggesting San Jose's where you get one for every 6. Yeah, we're not suggesting that kind of.
I think
A
roughly
formality.
proportional is brilliant.
I mean, I
think
guess.
that's the right way to do it.
Why even say roughly?
Because
What
it,
if it's
because it
just
empowers staff in the BMR agreement to say, this is how I interpret proportionality. Our
What if
staff
you
is
strike
never-
roughly and just say because then just the word proportional being in there already has to be interpreted by staff. I don't know. I'm not
I don't
opposed
know.
to the roughly, but.
I'm
and I
kind of
think-
with you though, Lauren, on that. Roughly
think-
is
yeah,
too
I figured you-
subjective.
I do wonder, and I have a question for Mr. Davis. As part of our work on our affordable housing program, is proportionality and how to handle proportionality something that will be in the BMR guidelines, or is that more about like kind of how we administer built units?
I mean, we can further define it in the guidelines to make it more clear, but it also means that you would still have some flexibility there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder if, because it does say as set forth in the affordable housing agreement, it feels like we have some flexibility. Yeah, the term roughly,
I think we should, yeah.
I understand it, but it is also, I don't know.
We don't want people taking advantage of this. And I think
Yeah.
that so whoever said there are good developers and bad developers is like definitely not wrong.
Yeah. And I know that I just took us down a rabbit hole, and there's a couple of other sections where I'm going to bring up this same topic. But I guess taking a step back, the way item number 7 is written, we do have the word concurrently, and maybe concurrently is the most flexible word to have there. Because
The proportional is really important.
is important.
It's really, yes. And most codes have
Because-
proportional.
Concurrently, you could be building one BMR unit for a really long time.
No, because the certificate of occupancy section below requires C of Os. You don't want people, no, that's even worse. You want people to actually have occupancy of the units.
Okay.
You want families in there.
Yeah.
I think we're all satisfied, with that a proportional number of units be constructed prior to or concurrently. And then no mention of rough and no mention of the AHP. Okay. I starred the next section, not because I had comments, but because it was such a big subject of discussion, and I didn't know if folks felt like it had been addressed. I was really surprised that I have no more comments on this section. I thought this was really well drafted. Does anyone have anything on 9 dash? This is 247. This is the one where it gave all the options of what you could do. Like you could provide. Yes.
My next comment is on C of that section, the off-site construction.
Okay. Does anyone have anything on A or B? Okay. Vice Chair?
Just that this is another section, so on packet page 248, C1, I just want to make sure, consistent with our last discussion of constructing the units proportionally, I think it's better written here, but I just want to point this out to the commission too, in case there's any other input.
This one, I think, is a benefit to the developer that they get and that they can request, and I think this is well worded.
Okay. The next one I have is 4D.
The same section?
Mm-hmm.
So the offsite preservation?
Yep.
Okay. So packet page 249.
Yep, packet page 249. So D4, the offsite preservation units must be purchased prior to the issuance of a building permit or the residential development project, for the residential development project. To me, that seems overly burdensome to the developer. No?
I don't, yeah, I think,
Yeah,
they're supposed to build inclusionary.
Yeah. So, okay, so then as a developer, you would purchase,
Yeah.
and then your building permit is withheld until that's done.
Correct, you need to show, so like, here's an example of something creative that was super cool. Habitat for Humanity had a project and they needed financing, and so the amount of money that a developer would usually pay to do inclusionary was just given to Habitat for Humanity, but that transfer had to happen before, right? Because otherwise, what's the assurance that it happens?
Well, what I was going to propose, if it's prior to the certificate of occupancy instead of prior to the building permit. But a lot of these questions that I have, I'm mainly presenting to Chair Hauser as a developer, and I just am wondering her opinion.
I did just want to point out, if I may, Vice Chair Berman, that when developers are building or are constructing on-site units, there are certain requirements that they have to meet before we'll issue a building permit. Like certain agreements about what they're going to do. So issuance of a building permit there's usually a milestone there related to whatever provision of affordable housing is being used. They can be different things, but I did just want to point out that it's a fairly common milestone point, particularly, when someone's doing something off-site, or, like the recording of agreements prior to issuance of a building permit, right, is a common.
And at the very most, what I would do is qualify that the building permit is for structures and not like like somebody could have a grading permit or
demolition.
Yeah, or demolition permit, which would be issued by the building, like we could clarify that, but I personally think it's fine as is. But if you're talking to affordable developers and they're worried, then.
No, and let me just preface this with, I'm coming from, on the engineering side, if I'm the engineer on a project that has improvements in Caltrans right-of-way, and a city requires that you need your Caltrans encroachment permit before they'll issue the building permit, that's overly burdensome, because it takes forever sometimes to get a Caltrans encroachment permit. So a lot of times, as the engineer, I will request that the building permit be issued, but then occupancy is withheld until the encroachment, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would posit that very few people can control Caltrans, PG&E.
Right.
But the developer purchasing a property from another private entity has control of that situation. And I think, again, I think I would just qualify that it's a building permit for the structures. But I also think it's worded clearly as it is.
well, and again, it's like distributing the BMRs so that you don't finish a phase and then run out of money.
Right.
So if you don't know that you've secured the property, especially in a town like Pacifica, and that you've secured the property that meets the qualifications for this, this alternative, you could get the building permit for the development, and then the person who was going to sell you the building decides they don't want to, and you can't find another one that qualifies properly. Yeah? No?
All these are valid points in terms of how difficult it is. I'd like to highlight that we're also requiring that in order to get the building permit, if you're going to do a land dedication or in lieu fees, those are paid at that same time.
That was going to be my next one.
So all of them are, in fact, to buy a building before it needs to be rehabbed, you don't have to buy it, you don't have to rehab it yet. Might be a cheaper option than doing the in lieu fee. I have worked in a city where we allowed developers to get an offsite without any building selected and they only had to bring in the units before they got their C of O. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I had like several of those happening at once, and only one of them, who had someone who really was on top of it, made it happen. And everyone else was like, oh, can we get an extension on this, et cetera, et cetera. Like one of them, it was a construction issue. Like they were in construction and everything else was fine. But it can be a crazy nightmare. And so this provides a layer of protection for you, the city, and because you are asking for the other things at the same time, it's all kind of equal in that respect. And you're asking them to purchase it. If it needs rehab, that can happen after the building permit.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add that it's fairly standard across the multiple jurisdictions that we work with to have these requirements, prior to issuance of building permit.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But I think there are some cases like the construction, the proportionality of the construction of the units that, the feedback that I was learning over the past couple of weeks is the common language in cities is actually really challenging for some developers. So that's kind of why I brought it up.
That is true, but I do, again, this is like a potential benefit. I think this is part of why we added that city council has to be the allowing authority. I don't love this as an option anyway. So
Sure.
I think keeping it.
Okay. Well, then probably my next comment was going to be on packet page 250, the land dedication, but similar, we kind of already covered that.
Yeah.
Then I think I have one more at 258 once we get there.
Okay. Anything on 47? Sorry, I'm going to go back to 4705 because again, that was really complicated and there's a lot of changes. Does anyone have questions on or comments on 4705? Okay. 4706? 4707, I actually have one there. So on packet page 253, it talks about, this came from, I think, my comment where I said developers need to be able to understand maximum sales prices because they are so variable based on cities. And so in B1, it says for the maximum resale price is defined below, but then it doesn't actually define it anywhere. So I think we started doing it, but we didn't include, maybe we can just talk through what those things should be.
Is it in section 3?
The resale agreement? No, this is the price for when somebody resells the unit after the original purchase price. But a developer who's doing a project is going to need to understand the original purchase price. And in most cities, this is qualified on AMI, which we make amply clear. I've seen about 80% of cities have the percentage of available income specified. Good cities will have the deposit percentage specified.
Oh, I think, and maybe it's not using the same terminology, and that's where the confusion lies, but in in B3, if you go through kind of the bottom of the page, there's a formula for the maximum purchase price.
Right.
And that is the resale price, and that would be the price that the city would purchase it for if for some reason it's not sold to another.
Correct.
And that's what's being outlined in section B1 is the resale price, not the
Correct,
original.
but what I'm looking for is the original maximum price, which is part of that formula. Because when we talk about accountability, part of the Housing Accountability Act is making sure that developers understand what fees are. And if in Pacifica, a home sells for $1 million, but a BMR sells for $500,000, that's like a fee of $500,000 for every BMR. And a developer needs to understand that because that's our biggest fee. It's bigger than our Quimby fee.
It needs to align with what we're using in the density bonus ordinance. And I can't find it at the moment. In fact, I just lost it.
I didn't see it in there, but I may have missed it.
No, I think you're right, but I need to.
And I think the intent of this, sorry, it's kind of creaky when I move this around, but I think the intent of this section, but please let me know if I'm misunderstanding, is that not when the city, not to allow the city to purchase it at the original sale of it, but only if, for example, a homeowner comes, wants to sell their unit, and there's no one that they can sell it to, or that the city decides, no, we want to purchase it, and then we're going to resell it. So it would be the city purchasing it for resale. So it would be like the city would be, in the same position as another party that was repurchasing it, rather than the original.
Actually, I think the language there refers to affordable housing costs, and that is a definition, which is citing the state density bonus code and the health and safety code.
So is the presumption here, and if it is, then we should say it, but is the presumption that we're using 30% of affordable income for lower income?
Yes,
and
so
then
it's
35 for mod and above?
So in that particular section, it's using the term affordable housing costs, which is defined earlier in the definitions as defined in section 50025.5 of the Health and Safety Code, which does do 30% of 80% for low-income units and 30% of 70% for low-income units, and 35% of 110% for 120% units.
And that's, what page in the packet is that, if you don't mind my asking?
The definitions is page 241.
241.
And so, in other words, it's just using that terminology when it says price of the units, it's using that affordable housing cost, which has already been defined. And so if health and safety code changes, then we would still be in alignment with health and safety code. And it does call out, things like private mortgage insurance, property insurance, HOA fees, et cetera, in the health and safety code.
So let me ask a question then. In A of this section, where it says based on the affordable housing cost, I think we should capitalize that then, because it's a defined term. I think that's what we're saying. I think that's a very helpful clarification. I still have more comments on this.
So we did actually kind of go a little back and forth on capitalizing all the defined terms or leaving them lowercase, and there's defined terms throughout. And typically I'm seeing more as a standard of practice, not putting all the defined terms in lowercase, especially given the number. So that's why it's lowercase.
Did you say as defined in section 4702?
If we want to clarify, we could certainly do that, especially for this, since it is an important premise.
What section was that?
4702 is the definitions.
4.4702? Okay. Okay, so based on the affordable housing cost as defined. Okay. But so just to be clear, wouldn't we want to also include things like maintenance, don't we want utilities, maintenance, the normal, don't we want to carve those out so people pay
Health and
them?
safety code does that.
It does do that as well.
Health and safety code does call out all those things. Yes, I can pull it up and we can look at it, but yeah.
That's okay. If
Yeah.
it does it, then it's in there.
Yeah, it does. Utilities, HOA fees, mortgage insurance, property insurance, maintenance.
Does it define a deposit percentage? Or sorry, a down payment percentage?
No, it does not.
Do we want to define a down payment?
We would do it,
percentage?
we were going to do it in the guidelines and do it at 5%.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
we'll
think
do it in
that's
the
very
guidelines.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's in there.
It says a reasonable down payment in the health and safety code. That's the term it uses, is reasonable. So that's where that's where when talking with developers is like, I want 10, and it's like, no, our policy's 5, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but we just want to be consistent when we get the
I think
guidelines.
it's just confusing because some cities have 10, some cities have 5, some cities have 3. It's very,
Yeah, that's because,
irregular.
yeah, that's the one place where the health and safety code is not so.
yeah.
It also includes private mortgage insurance, which we now know that that's a very expensive cost, and yet there's a lot of lenders who can provide a first-time homebuyer mortgage without PMI.
Right.
So that's also another place where we found ourselves to be much more flexible in kind of defining how to set the resale price, is whether or not PMI is available.
Okay.
Is required or not.
Okay, that's perfect, as long, like, that link very much clarifies it for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have anything on 4710? Oh, 11, where, you had one on 258?
Yeah.
Okay. Implementation? Me too.
Okay, so for the implementation section, the no building permit shall be issued for any market rate unit until the permittee has obtained permits for the BMR units. So kind of same questions, that's the theme of my comments.
I
Is it-
added here in 2 places a proportional amount. So no building permit shall be issued for any market rate units until the permittee has obtained a proportional amount of the BMR units required by this article. And then,
Well, I guess how is that done? Because I'm picturing one permit. I don't,
typically, and it depends on the city, like Daly City does a building permit for every single unit of a project unless it's an apartment building.
how does our city do it?
I have not built anything here, but many cities do it like 1 permit per building.
Okay. Is that how we do it?
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you have a 10-unit building with 1 inclusionary unit in it, but all the other buildings are 5 units, you may have a, like, yes. But
An issue.
that's where the interpretation that we were talking about and the reason, like, wherever it's coming from, I feel like makes it better.
Okay, so adding proportional, should we reference, because now I'm thinking of if 20 years from now, the zoning section for how we permit units changes, then this is going to be inconsistent. Is that a concern?
No.
Okay.
No, because if there's a single building permit that's issued, the project by rote will be proportional because the whole project has the amount. I think you're
But then-
thinking like if it's like a
So
Daly
that's
City.
where I saw it would be an issue, because then you wouldn't, like, let's say there's 1 permit for market rate and 1 permit for BMR, and you're having issues with permitting your BMR for some reason, then you're not going to be able to permit your market rate. Then you have no permits. But maybe that's not.
I think that wouldn't happen though because you have an inclusionary housing plan that has to get approved, like, right? Like you'd always have either an alternative compliance plan approved by the city council, but by, basis, like by what we're putting into the basic ordinance.
Okay.
You have a plan that shows inclusionary units. This only comes up when building sizes vary slightly,
Okay.
but I think we're covered. Okay. So I added proportional twice. I added it in the first sentence at the permits and in the last sentence at the occupancies. Okay? And that was the last comment. Do you have anything else? Okay.
Silly question popped in my head. So if we have a building that requires a single building permit, okay, you still need a certificate of occupancy. So wouldn't that cover anything that's BMR in there? It wouldn't be individual permitting or certificate of occupancy per unit.
Yeah, but I would, so Commissioner Redfield, are you saying that like we could get rid of the requirement for units to be permitted proportionally?
No, I'm just, for clarity in my head.
Yeah.
If we issue a building permit for, say, a 10-unit building.
Yeah.
So that means every unit has to be completed, and including BMR in that building for a certificate of occupancy. So you couldn't, no?
It means that the BMR unit has to be the second unit. I would posit that, right? So like you have 10 units,
Mm-hmm.
the BMR has to have occupancy earlier on.
Okay.
and not be the last. It can't be the 10th unit. But again, staff had, like, this rough proportionality is going to be kind of in the guidelines and affordable agreement in a way, like, right, we're saying it's proportional, and then staff will further define that in their documents. I thought I was the developer. You guys were the developers. Okay. So I will do what I did last time and send a red line. There's like this is very few comments. This is a very well-written ordinance. And unless people have other comments, or if staff needs clarification, I would be happy to entertain a motion. I think we'll need clarification on the motion.
I'm assuming it's not the one on 176.
It's not.
Well,
It's the coastal zone.
the coastal, yeah, oh, yeah, it's not in the packet.
It's, yeah.
But there's also language in the new motion that says, and what we deliberated on, which I appreciate. I noticed that. So then we don't have to say, and then there's this and that and that.
I would like, just to confirm, though, the commission's direction on the approach that staff put forward for the coastal, because we did skip over that when we were going through section by section.
I don't know if anyone has comments. That made sense to me. I just hope it's earlier in the fiscal year rather than later.
But that, I mean, it's great that we're doing that because like we just experienced with the LCLUP, which city council approved, I don't know, 5 years ago. And then it was just certified. Yeah, so.
You're the
yeah.
only commissioner that actually
I was the only one that was here.
Well, and this same thing's happening with the STR ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Coastal Commission hasn't approved it yet. So,
We really should have some sort of like applicable, like some webpage that says these are the documents that are applicable in and out of the coastal zone, because it's very hard for.
We do on the short-term rental page.
Okay. Okay. Woohoo! All right. So I think staff doesn't need more clarification. I don't see more comments. The motion is on the board. Does somebody want to make a motion?
can I just clarify quickly? So what we're doing, the motion has been changed. It's basically all this work we did and everything we agreed to and just reviewed and deliberated on before. The only difference is it's not applicable in the coastal zone until CCC weighs in.
And then it will come
but
back
it'll
to
be
us.
but we're doing it in order to take advantage of moving forward with some of these other projects with clarity and compliance to state law.
Yeah.
Correct? Gotcha.
And actually get
Yeah.
I think we get more affordable housing with this ordinance.
Right.
And then I have to say it because it happened like this weekend and it's absolutely insane, but the AMIs just got public, like I'm going to ask Hart to explain what just happened.
Oh, the new AMIs. They're up, I think 8% over last year. They were actually remained steady last year, and they're up about 8% this year. HUD has released their data. The state has released data for federally funded programs, but not just their regular statewide information, which they promised today. Maybe it did come out
They
today.
posted it today.
It did come out today,
It did
okay.
come out today.
I was focused on other things today. It was supposed to come out today. The county then follows up with presenting their kind of version of it. They're really high. I'm not sure what else you want me to say, except for we have some of the highest in the country here it's the San Francisco, San Mateo, and Marin counties are together in that area median income definition, which is actually lower than the San Jose's, but higher than the East Bay's.
Yeah. So if you're a family with 2 parents and 2 children, the median income in this county is $200,800.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I move that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution included as Attachment A to the staff report as amended during Planning Commission deliberations to initiate text amendment TA 12926 and recommend approval to the City Council and find the draft ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3 and incorporate all maps and testimony into the record by reference.
Second.
Okay, let's please vote. No knees. Success.
And that motion made by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Berman, and that motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Ferguson absent.
I just want to thank staff and Hart for all, like, this is awesome. And thank you for bearing with us because I know this was a lot of detail. So thank you.
I second all of that.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks a lot, guys, really.
And thank you. This is a great ordinance, I think, in a really big step in Pacifica's future and really stepping into our current age and our current laws. So you guys really did incredible work on this. Thank you.
Okay. Well, now we are on to commission communications. Does anyone have something?
I have a question. Were the lights there replaced recently? Because they are so bright. I can, like, this whole meeting, I had trouble seeing.
I will look into that.
That's it.
We'll buy everyone a visor.
Well, I was looking around wondering if it was just me and then you, are those like blue?
I thought my eyesight was getting worse, but now that you say that, I'm like, okay, this makes more sense. Okay, any other commission communication? Staff communications.
Thank you, Chair Hauser. I just wanted to report out, Commissioner Redfield and I attended a 21 Elements Planning Commissioner training on inclusionary housing and learned more about the Grand Nexus study that's going on and had an opportunity to use a affordable housing calculator that was quite informative. But those are a really excellent resource for all of you and also for staff. So I definitely encourage you to go to those when you can. And then I think that was everything that I had.
Awesome.
I have a question to that. How do we find out about them?
How do you find what?
Find out about them.
I email when they come up.
So
I'm
I
not
remember
sure
the one in Southern California, but this was local, was it not? Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't see anything.
I believe they do them quarterly.
Oh, okay.
You should have received an email, so I'll double check.
I do get my email.
They come from me or Michael.
This is just getting silly up here now. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. Please vote. We are
And that
adjourned. Thank
motion-
you.
I know. Chris, can you